Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Leonard Maganza, the Chief Customer Officer at Syniti, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Purvi Shah, the VP of Enterprise Big Data Platforms at American Express. Purvi, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me, Leonard. It's a pleasure.
First of all, I feel like we're living in, even though we both play in the data space, which is why we're here, I feel like we're in alternate universes. We were talking just before we got on camera about where we are today. You're up in the Northeast in New Jersey. I'm down here in Texas. I'm 38 years New York City before I moved to the last 17 in Texas. I know you were in UT for a while. I don't know where you grew up, University of Texas, for those who don't know who are listening, but I know now you're up in the Northeast. So we kind of crossed paths, along the way. But anyway, with that said,
my grad.
Yeah, I got a couple of, get to know you questions. I think before we deep dive, I think it'll give some credibility to who you are, and as you answer the questions, then people will have some more context, right? So, kind of in layman's terms, what is your role, at American Express today?
Thank you so much, Leonard, for having me here. It's a pleasure. I have been at Amex for about 10 years now, and I actually currently lead the Enterprise Data Platforms team. And what that really means is I'm responsible for our data ecosystem globally at American Express. And we are in the mission of bringing the data together across multiple different systems at American Express, unifying the information so that it can be used and leveraged as an asset when we think about analytics, insights, powering the best customer experience across the board. So that is my current role right now. And before this, most notably, I also served as the president of Customer 360, which is an enterprise asset now and a CRM for American Express that allows American Express to understand who their customers are and what relationships that they had. And this is a very important part of American Express in terms of how we understand the customer across the life cycle and different functions, all the way from acquisitions to how we service them, how we detect credit and fraud risk against the customer across the board.
In your role at American Express, we know that you've gotten several awards, right? And I'm going to highlight one of them that really caught my eye, and then you can expound on it. One of the awards because you participated in a patent, right? And I know you have two, so you can expound on both. I'll just highlight the one that I'm most familiar with, which was really about systems and methods for comparing data across platforms and across sources, to just quote actually what the patent says. And super passionate about that. I work for Syniti, we're a data company, and the way we described the problem of data, if you would, and I don't know if you use this word, is data interoperability. In other words, right? It's customer here, it's client here, it's material here, it's product here, it's item master over here, it's vendor here, it's supplier here. You get the idea, right? And we think about how do you harmonize that, if you would, right, across platforms once, or how do you even keep it evergreen, if you would, for real-time reporting. So expound on the patents, expound on the use case and how you stumbled on it. We'd love to know more.
Yeah, for sure. So I am really humbled to have two patents under my belt over the last, I would say 5 years. The first one was for my role in merchant data products team. And the problem statement really was that our sales team, which is a global merchant sales team that work with the merchants day in and day out to help them see the value of Amex and help them grow. The problem statement was that they were spending too much time actually going to multiple different systems, pulling the data together so that they can create insights to have those meaningful conversations. So you can imagine how much time it took, not only just to capture the data, but then to massage it and really create insights. And so what we created was to bring that data together using our big data ecosystem and create dynamic insights for the sales team. And we made it so easy for them to simply drag and drop the information so that they can spend more time spending with our merchants versus spending the time to actually create those insights and the presentation. So that was one. And then the second one that you alluded to earlier was on Customer 360. So as we were creating Customer 360, which is a CRM for American Express, to understand what are the relationships that our customers have. And our customers are extremely varied, right? We have individuals like you and I who are the customers of our card products, for example, or different types of products, or businesses. So how do we understand what relationships that they have had or currently have? And then in doing so, we had to take information across 16 different legacy systems, try to massage that information, understand where the discrepancy, so that we could come to the cleansed information. And this is where we created the flexible framework to do that mapping across the variety of systems, processing millions of records, and that's the other patent for. So again, these both patents are in the data space and really a testament to the great group of colleagues that I work with at Amex that are passionate about data and driving innovation across the board.
I love that story. First of all, and it not only because it's a great story, but it's a perfect segue into where I think we need to go next, right? Someone who may be listening to this podcast, may have been interested by the word big data, right? Or data in general. Certainly you took it down to the next layer to know that it's not just a word. You talked about an ecosystem, and you even talked about things like creating the data and mapping the data and the 360-degree view. I mean, you use all the things that are really cool, right? If I was to take it down one level lower, in the way that I think about it oftentimes is the creating of the data. So the master data management piece, right? The evaluating the quality, either right then at the create or subsequent to that piece, right? The metadata management that's maybe necessary to do some of that. So without giving me bit for bytes about the product, if you could just distill it down a little bit to the ingredients, because people are joining this. They want the theory, you gave it, the architecture, you gave it, but take us down one level lower, right? Into the recipe that you did to integrate these things.
Yeah, so great question, Leonard. So I will tell you this, which is Amex values data, right? And we have been investing in our big data ecosystem for over a decade at this point in time. And what that really means is, what you touched upon, which is how do we consolidate and bring together data across multiple different systems that Amex has globally? How do we ensure that we have the right balance and controls, right data quality checks? And really thinking about how do we scale all of these across the petabytes and petabytes of data that we have. And then more importantly, organizing it in the right way so that our end users, which is both AI, ML users, our analytics, data scientists across the board can easily leverage that data to create the insights to power the best customer experience and to make decisions very quickly. So we have created this ecosystem that allows our, thousands of our colleagues to do that very quickly across the board.
Perfect. Great insights. What would you say in that process and making sure that the data is readily available and can be trusted for the analytics? Any lessons learned? Were there some things that said, "Ooh, wish I hadn't done it that way. I would do it differently next time"? That the listeners can say, "Okay, I'm drafting behind Purvi. I don't want to do what she did wrong. I want to do what she did right." What? Give me a lesson learned.
Yeah, I think we have learned one important lesson. So as you can imagine, the data ecosystem and the data landscape has changed and evolved and continues to do that over, last several decades. And what we really learned is as we invest, and we invest heavily in our data ecosystem because we do value data very heavily, that we, sometimes don't necessarily put migration at the forefront. So we have lots of legacy systems that are still heavily used, and our user base uses both our current as well as the legacy. And that this is one area that we as a company are focusing on really, and we call it mission to decommission, which is how do we simplify all of these data ecosystems that we have across American Express so the user ends up going to one place to get the information versus having to go to multiple different data ecosystems and having to stitch that information together and trying to make sense of it.
First of all, thank you for your candor, and thank you for joining me today. And thank you, guests, for listening. And please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.